Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we will continue our lab the transformers. This is part 2 of my video number 25th. In the previous video we have already discussed the captive portal option on the Pfsense firewall. Basically this option for making the user to access the internet through a portal page, asking for a username and the password. After the user provides the username and the password, he can access the internet. The username and the password is created on the Pfsense firewall system, okay, and the effective right or the right that assigned to this user through the Pfsense firewall system is to only see the portal page, because you can assign more than one right. For example, if this user is an admin user, you can assign him admin rights, but in this case we will make a user and name it test. This user have only the option to see the portal page and will be a username and the password, and this will be used to access the internet. So to have a brief on what we did the last video, I will show you a little bit of a diagram to discuss what we have done in the previous video. Here we can see that a brief on our network diagram. Here is the Pfsense firewall. It contains two network cards. The first card is for the WAN interface, which is wide area network. This is the interface that is connected to the internet. This is provided by our ISP provider. The IP of this interface is 192.168.1.1, and the network subnet mask and the network range, it's 192.168.1.2 .1.0/24 or 255.255.255.0, and there is another interface which is for the LAN, which is our office local area network. This is its IP is 192.168.2.10. Here our reside our servers and workstations. Okay, forgot to say that this WAN interface is on the network card VMnet4, and here is our local area network, which here resides our servers and workstations. Here the network range is 192.168.2.0/24. okay, and the IP of the card is 192.168.2.10, and its own network card VMnet1. So for example, if anyone here in this local area network wants to get to the internet, for example our domain controller, it's 192.168.2.10, he will talk to the LAN interface, is 192.168.2.10, and then this interface will talk to the WAN interface, which is 192.168.1.1, and he can get to the internet. As I said before, if you have a guest coming to your office and wants to access the internet, it is not safe to put him on your office local area network to get to the internet, because this laptop, you don't know if it is secured or not. You don't know if its antivirus is updated regularly, or it contains the latest security patches for Microsoft and most of the softwares on his laptop. But here in your here in your local area or office local area network, you are the IT of this location, so you know that your workstations or servers are completely secure. So you will not make a risk to connect this guest laptop through your work office local area network. You will not put him there. So if you have a virus, he will not infect your network environment. And actually also you will not give him he can't see your shares or the network shares or sensitive information. Okay, so in our scenario we will make a new network card or insert a new network card and a new interface. We will name it guest wireless network or guest network wireless, because I have just changed it from GWN to GNW. In the firewall it will be named GNW. It refers to guest wireless network. Okay, and we will give it an IP 10.0.0.10. it will be our network card VMnet5. okay, in the last video we have already put on this interface, we have set up this interface, okay, and we have set up the captive portal on it, okay. As I said before, captive portal, that it is a page that contains the username and the password, so the user, when he puts the username and the password, he can get to the internet. So for example, let's have a scenario. This guest laptop wants access to internet. So what will be the scenario as follows? First of all, in the last video we have already inserted or created the interface and set up captive portal on it, okay. In this lab we need to set up DHCP on it, so the guest can take an IP address from this interface, and after he gets the IP, the captive portal will appear for him, asking for the username and the password, which we will already create it on the Pfsense firewall, and give it to the guest so he can access the internet. As soon as he put the username and the password, he will get to this interface. For example, the DHCP will give him 10.00.50. he will talk to the interface 10.00.10, and then this interface will get it or redirect it to the WAN interface, which will get him to the internet. First of all, when you create this interface, the firewall blocks everything to this interface. I mean, inbound and outbound traffic to this interface will be blocked. So you need to make a rule on this interface to allow inbound and outbound traffic, okay. And there is another rule that will be created automatically between this interface and the WAN interface, so the guest can get to the internet, okay. So in our previous lab we have created the captive portal, we have made the inbound and outbound rules on this interface to allow the firewall or to allow the Pfsense to allow traffic in and out to this interface. And then as soon as we have created this interface, an automatic rule will be created to allow communication between this interface and the WAN interface for internet connection, okay. So here, this is briefly our network diagram. As I said before, we have already created the captive portal, have already added the interface, okay. We need in this lab to install the DHCP on this interface and assign IP address to this interface. So let's begin. We will do this through the command prompt. We can, or from the Linux command, we can do this through the graphical interface, but I prefer it to do in multiple ways. In my previous video I have done it through the graphical interface, but now we will do it on the command prompt. So let's begin our lab. As I said before, I have already recorded these videos without audio, because I have to comment on these videos in two languages, one in Arabic and one in English. So I prefer first to record the video and then begin commenting on it after recording it, first in English and then in Arabic, okay. So here we will begin our lab. So first of all, we need to do something here. I need to we will create a new virtual machine to make it as a test, okay. We will make a new virtual machine and test on it our captive portal to see if, for example, this will, when we create this virtual machine, it will be, for example, the here it will be this laptop guest. We will create a virtual machine and name it guest Wi-Fi internet guest, okay, and then try to make it access the internet and to see if the captive portal will appear or not, okay. So here we will do this through what? Through what is called from the VM, just a minute. So let's continue our lab. Here we will create a new virtual machine through the through a method. We will do it through the VM Workstation Pro. Here we will make a new virtual machine from the snapshot. As I said before, taking a snapshot is like taking a backup to a physical machine. Taking a snapshot is like taking a backup for a virtual machine, okay. From this snapshot we will make a new virtual machine through manage and then clone. Here, for example, we have I have make a snapshot or and name it master image, okay. Here we will make a new virtual machine from this snapshot entry. Okay, we can do this through manage. We will see here. We will click on manage, and here we will clone. Okay, here will ask me from which you want to make clone, from what snapshot. I will choose my master image. This is a snapshot I have taken from my first created virtual machine workstation. Okay, before joining the domain I have already created a machine and put Windows 10 on it and put Office and a lot of things I need in my production environment, and then I took a snapshot before joining this workstation to the domain. So I will make a new virtual machine from this snapshot. Okay, so here we have two options to create a linked clone. A linked clone reference to original virtual machine and requires less disk space. However, it cannot run without access to the original virtual machine. Here basically what does it say? It says that the new virtual machine, let's for example assume that this is the new virtual machine. These two virtual machines will share one hard disk. Okay, will share one hard disk. So basically what we are doing is we are just making a new configuration, but the data, the windows or everything are used between or it is used on one hard disk. So these two virtual machine will share only one hard disk. This is done, or one virtual hard disk. This is done when you don't have space on your laptop, for example, or your physical laptop, the one or the host that you are hosting these virtual machines on. So this is good. But here I will take a full clone. That means that the new virtual machine will have its own hard disk. Okay, I prefer this one to be a complete one. That means it will have a fully independent, and actually if you have a linked clone you need to have this virtual machine or the original virtual machine to be on. So for example, if you want to work from this virtual machine or the second or the cloned virtual machine, you need it to work, you need to have the first virtual machine or the original virtual machine to be powered on. So both have to be powered on. But on the create full clone you will have a new virtual machine with its independent hard disk. So this virtual machine can be powered off normally. You can work with only one and it will have its full independent hard disk, but this requires more space, but we will use the full clone. And we will give it a name. We have done this in a previous lab when we have created so now we will give it a name. We have done this in a previous lab when creating the second workstation that joined the domain to test our Microsoft virtualization experience. You can return to my video concerning this option. Here we have already created the cloned workstation. We will name it guest internet Wi-Fi. Here we just connect it to our VM net 5. Let's say show you here. As we said before, our guest network or guest wireless network will be on VM net 5. Okay, this card, so we need it to be on the same network card as the Pfsense firewall, or the same, not the same network card, the same network. This whole network is named VM net 5, and this whole network will be VM net 1, this whole network will be VM net 4. Okay, so here we need to put the laptop guest on VM net 5, network VM net 5, which is on the same interface, the newly created interface. Also this interface is on VM net 5, so both should be on the same network to be able to communicate and get the DHCP, to take the IP from the DHCP and communicate with each other. Okay, so here we'll connect on VM net 5. We have done this in the previous video also. So now we will power on the cloned virtual machine. Here we can see a little bit of a note. When we go to the virtual machine container or the virtual machine here where I put my virtual machines in the folder of the virtual machine. Okay, we can see that guest Wi-Fi network here is created. Here we can see a small note. Here we can see that the hard disk is named, not named guest internet Wi-Fi, but it is named on HP 8100. This is the name of the original virtual machine that we have cloned. Okay, so you can see clearly that it is a cloned machine, because normally the hard disk should have the name of the virtual machine. For example, if it's guest internet Wi-Fi, then the hard disk should have guest internet Wi-Fi.vmdk, not the name of the original virtual machine that we have cloned it from. Okay, so here we will work on it. Here we will power on the virtual machine. Also, I will give it a little bit less RAM, because I don't have a lot of RAM in my laptop. I have only 8 GB, so I have to use it wisely. So I have the firewall 2 GB of RAM, and this machine can work perfectly with only 1 GB of RAM. Here we will power on the firewall. Here we will begin assigning IP address. Here we can see, just a minute, here we need to assign IP address to this interface. We will give it 10.0.0.10 and have the DHCP option activated on this interface. So here we can see this is the booting of the firewall. Here we can see that I name it GNW, not GWN. It's called guest network wireless, not guest wireless network, but it's the same. When I refer to guest network wireless, it means guest wireless network in the diagram. Okay, so don't get confused. Sorry for me, but I have already named it in a different. This is GNW. Okay, so here the interface is booting. Okay, you can get a little bit further. Okay, we can see here it's downloading the setting, and we can see here starting captive portal. The portal service is running. We have done this in the previous video. And then continue the booting of the firewall. Here we can see now, just a minute. Here we can see now that the firewall is booted up, but we can see that our interface, okay, doesn't have any IP address. Okay, and we need to assign, first of all, when we have created the firewall for the first time, we need, when creating the WAN and the LAN interface, we should tell the firewall which network card is assigned to which interface. Okay, and the IP address should be to which interface. So if we have first to assign interfaces, we need to tell the firewall which network card MAC address is to which interface. For example, for the WAN, we have already give it the MAC address for the WAN interface, and give it and name it WAN. Sorry, so here we need to when we are making the interface for the first time, we need to, for the WAN and the LAN, we need to get the MAC address for every network card and say which network card is assigned to which interface. For example, EM0, this is the network card name, it is assigned to the WAN. This is network card is connected to the internet. Just a minute. Here we can see that the first network card it's 6364. This is assigned to the WAN interface. This is my network card that is connected to the internet. EM1, this is my LAN network card, and this also with another different MAC address is connected to my servers and workstation network, or to my office local area network. And EM2, here is the newly created interface. So here we can see that this interface will be EM2. This will be our GWN, or guest wireless network interface. This will be our new interface, and this is the MAC address. We will assign this network card to the interface which is called GNW. So we need to assign first the interface to the its respective network card, and then we will begin configuring this interface to give it an IP address and enable the DHCP on it. We will not make any VLANs on it. Here we are giving the WAN interface, as I said before, it's on EM01. So you are telling him basically that the WAN interface is taking the network card EM01. As I said before, I know each MAC address for each network card. Let me show you all. Here you go. From this here, it's VMnet1. This is VMnet1, the LAN, and VMnet4 for the WAN, and VMnet5 for the newly created interface. How we can know the MAC address for each network card? We can see it from here. So let's continue our lab here to know every network card and its equivalent MAC address from the VM Workstation Pro. Simply you go to the firewall, okay, and we can see here is the VMnet4 and VMnet1 and VMnet5. As I said before, VMnet1 is for the LAN, office local area network, and VM4 is for the WAN, and the new one will be on VMnet5. So simply what we will do, that we will go to the edit virtual machine, and then we will go to the VMnet5 for advance. Here we can see the MAC address, it's ending with 6378, okay, and here we will, and for the WAN, for example VMnet4, it's 6364, and as for the LAN, it will be 636E, okay. So here we have we have now every MAC address, and we know which interface is attached to which network card. So here we will begin the process. So here we will tell him EM0, it is for 6364. This MAC address is for the WAN interface. It's AM0, this is for the WAN interface, because the MAC address is 6364. This is the network card attached to VM net4, which is for the WAN interface. And now he is asking about the LAN interface, the first LAN interface, which is our office local area, which is EM1 636E. This is the LAN, office local area network. And then for the last one, EM2, it's our new guest network wireless. So we will tell him it's EM2. Okay, and then we will press enter. So here we have assigned all of the interfaces. The next step is to go to the interface of EM2, which our guest network wireless. We will change the name later, okay, because by default the Pfsense names the second LAN interface to be opt1. We will change it to GNW, okay, from the graphical interface or from the web. We will access the web interface and put the IP address of the firewall and begin working with it. Okay, but I think here it's giving a description. It's normally this is the name, but the description it's GNW, so it's okay. Now we have assigned the interface to the right network card. We will begin giving this interface EM2 to the IP address for 10.0.0.10 and then activate the DHCP option on it. Also, from the previous video, we have already activated the captive portal on this interface. Here we are proceeding with the configuration. So here we are powering on the guest internet Wi-Fi or the laptop in our scenario. We have already cloned it from a snapshot. Okay, normally sometimes the configuration or the firewall hangs or the configuration is written, but he doesn't return to the main menu of the firewall, so I am restarting the firewall. So here we can see that the interfaces are being going up one by one, the WAN interface and then the LAN interface and then the GNW interface. It will take a little bit of time. So here we can see that all of the setting of the firewall is running. Here we can see after a couple of seconds that the captive portal service is up and running, but still we need to here we will go to the laptop or our machine or the virtual machine that we have created to test the captive portal. Here the password is expired, I'm changing it. Here we will test and see if this guest or this laptop can take an IP address. Still we didn't configure the DHCP on our guest network wireless, but here just to show you all that it doesn't get any IP address. So after configuring the DHCP, we will see how that this client will get an IP address and test the captive portal after that. Here we can see that the captive portal guest Wi-Fi internet portal is working. So here now we will choose option number 2 to set interface IP address, and we will choose the GNW interface or the opt1 interface, so we can set an IP address and then enable the DHCP on option on this interface. Here we can see that there is no internet access, and if we open the control panel and try to see the IP address of this workstation, it's getting a PIPA, which is automatic protocol, I think, IP address. It will get the range of 169.1 I think 198. It's this the range that the Windows gives to any client if there is no DHCP in the network. This is called a PIPA, Auto Configuration IP version 4. So here we will go and set the IP address for the interface 2, and then we will choose option number 3 to set the interface for GNW to give it an IP address. Here we will type 10.0.0.10. okay, and then we'll give it subnet mask for 24, which is 255.255.255.0, and then he is telling you if there is any gateway. So we will not define any gateway, because automatically the Pfsense, we have an option that any interface should have its default gateway to be the WAN, so we will not give it any IP address for the gateway. This is done automatically, and we'll show you where is this option in the Pfsense firewall. So we will press enter, and then we will not give it an IP address. Here we will, the IP version 6, we will not give it any, and here we tell him to enable the DHCP, and we will specify the range of IP addresses from the starting point or the starting range and the ending range. So we will begin for 10.0.0.50. I am just 70 or 50 whatsoever. You can specify the range that you need from 50 until 10.0.0, the ending address, start address and the ending address, 10.0.0.250. So now we have enabled the DHCP. Here this option is telling me that when to access the firewall. Okay, you can access the firewall with 3 IP addresses. Here, if we can, I can show you from here that you can access the firewall through this IP address, or through this IP address, or through this IP address. Okay, with HTTP protocol or HTTPS. So normally what I am saying here, that do not use HTTP. I prefer to use the HTTPS for accessing the firewall. Okay, so now we have already enabled the DHCP and saved the configuration, and now we'll press enter. Now the DHCP is enabled and the interface have got an IP address, which is 10.0.0.10. Now if we go to the guest, we can see here that this client has got an IP address, but we can see here that even though the captive portal is working and the DHCP is enabled, but still we didn't get the portal page until now. Okay, here just we can see that DHCP DNS, okay, everything is working perfectly for the DHCP, but still we can't get to the internet. If if I can show you here little bit. Okay, here we can see that there is no internet. I will show you what is the trick here. We will see this practically. Here I will open the Pfsense firewall. I will show you the setting, or which setting it should be done. As I said before, this is a recorded video. I was working from a recorded video, because as I said before, I am commenting in 2 languages, so to make it easy for me, I just record without audio and then begin commenting or recording the video twice, once with English and the other with Arabic. But first I record it without audio so I can use it a couple of times. So here now the firewall is booting up. Okay, now everything is working. Okay, I will show you all the configuration and how to solve, or what was the problem with the captive portal and the internet, why I wasn't able to access the internet and getting the portal page even though the captive portal is set up and the DHCP is enabled. So we will see now. We can see that the captive portal appeared. Okay, here I will open the firewall and begin revising all of the settings. I will show you the correct setting for all of this to work. You need to make sure of the following. Okay, we will open the firewall. We will do some checks, or we will revise our configuration, and I show you which configuration is needed to make this captive portal working and the internet working. Okay, here we will access locally with we will not access with the Active Directory account. I will access with the local Pfsense firewall username and password, which I said before, when set up the firewall it is admin and the default is Pfsense, the password, and you need to change it after that. Let's revise this. Actually, after the configuration is done, the guest laptop, let's revise the scenario. The guest laptop will open his wireless Wi-Fi and connect to the network HGNW. He will get an IP address from the DHCP. Okay, and then the captive portal should appear. Okay, for him we should give him a username and a password. After creating this username and password on the Pfsense firewall, we have done this in the previous video, and after putting his username and password, the firewall here, as I said before, we have here 2 rules created on the firewall to enable traffic to come and get out of this interface, and there another rule to enable the traffic to be routed to the WAN interface, so the guest or the laptop can get out to the internet. So we'll revise all of the setting. We will see the DHCP setting and the firewall rules, okay, and the user, to make sure everything is correct, and I will show you which setting was missing for the captive portal solution to work. So here we can see there is an update for the firewall. I will just see it later. Here we can see that DGNW. I will show you, this is the interface. We can see that it is a static IP address. Okay, all of this, and we have the IP address of it is 10.10.00.10, and there is no gateway, as I said before. Why there is no gateway? because when we go to the system and to the routing, we can see here that the default gateway IP version is WAN DHCP. So any interface, LAN interface, you should leave it without an IP gateway, because it automatically will be routed or will have a gateway of the WAN DHCP, which is the internet or the WAN interface. Okay, so here now we have checked the GNW IP and every setting. As I said before, here we will leave the upstream gateway none, and then we will go to the DHCP. Okay, here is the DHCP server. We will see the options. This is enabled. We have already done the DHCP setting in the command prompt. We can see that it's enabled DHCP server on GNW interface. This option should be enabled, but this we have done it in the command prompt. Here we can see that the subnet will be 10.0.0.0, and this is subnet mask, and the available range is from 1 to 254, and we have a range of 50 to 250. If this is all of this is done through the Linux interface, all of the setting here is none. We don't have to put anything in this boxes or in this setting. Everything is left to default. So here the DHCP is correct, and we have checked out the interface. If you go to the firewall, to the rules, here we can see in the GNW we have two rules. This basically saying that any protocol IP version for anyone on the guest network wireless net is abbreviation to network. Anyone on the this network from any port to any destination port, you should allow it. Okay, this is for IP version 4. IP version 6, this is done to enable traffic going to out of the interface and to the interface. Okay, that means we are correct. If you go to the WAN, here, no, this is not the WAN. We will go to the here in the firewall, in the net, sorry, in the net. Here we can see in the outbound traffic, we can see, just a minute, here we can see that there is a rule saying that in the WAN any of these networks with, for example here 10.24, from any source to any destination on port 500, allow it and get it out, and there is netting on the interface as well. And here also another rule to allow, this is for allowing the traffic routed from the guest network wireless to be able to route to the WAN address or to the WAN interface and get to the internet. These two rules to get any LAN interface, these two rules, as we said, as we see here, that it contains all of the IP address of this, contains the IP address of this network and for this network. This is done to enable both of them to go to the internet. Okay, these two rules are done to enable both of the LAN and the GNW to get to the internet. Okay, so now we have the firewall rules correct, we have the interface correct, we have the DHCP setting correct. Another small detail that was preventing me from getting to the internet, it was this: in the DNS resolver you need to add this setting. Okay, here you need to add a record. Here we can see, I will show you all, to add a record putting the name of the firewall and the domain and the IP address of the GNW interface. This is a DNS record that will be inserted or will be given to every guest, everyone or any laptop or workstation connected to the guest network wireless, so he can verify, or we can go, this will be the DNS resolver. Basically it's saying to him that this is your DNS resolver, or it's your DNS server. Okay, how we can get this information? If we go from here and right click, here we can see that here is the name of the firewall, and this is the domain. Okay, domain transformers.local. Okay, so here we should add this record. We can go to the record and see. Here we will give it the name and the domain and the IP address, and we can give it a small description. Okay, and that's it, and then save. Okay, we will get to the general setting. Okay, so now we will try and see if our, here is another thing. We will see the captive portal configuration. Here is another thing I need to demonstrate. Edit. Here we have enabled a captive portal on our guest network wireless interface, and here there is an option. I have already changed it for here I have put the transformers website to be the page that will be after putting the username and the password in the captive portal. This is the website that will be redirected after putting the username and the password on the captive portal page. So now we need to test the setting. So we'll get off the firewall, okay, and close this one, and then we will open the, let's see, first I have the firewall setting, I think. Okay, here we will open the virtual machine. So I need to specify, or I need to say again that the option of the DNS resolver that I show you from a couple of seconds, the record, or you need to add this record, because if you didn't add in the DNS resolver this record, you will not get to the internet. I will show you this option again, but first we need to test the setting. Here we can see that this is a custom option is done. I have done it in a previous video, how to add safe mode and save network mode, and safe mode with CMD. If you want to know how this is done, please refer to my previous videos to see, because this is very useful. Here we will add, or we will go to the normal mode. Lab, here we will log into the virtual machine. Just a minute. So here now you can see that the portal page appeared automatically. Once I have logged in, he have already given me the user. Okay, as we can see here, I can show you all the IP address. Okay, sorry. And here is the network, sorry, of the mouse, network and sharing. Okay, details. Here we can see that it's 10.0.0.50 and the default gateway is 10.0.0.10 and the HSP is .10 and DNS.10. Okay, so here we will type the password. can put him agree and type login. It will take a little bit of time. Now it should redirect us to the transformers, okay, our website. Here we can see that we have already got the transformers page, so this means that the portal page is working perfectly. So I will just show you, I will also confirm, or I need to confirm on something, okay. I'm just closing or powering off the virtual machine. So here I will show you all something. Here we will access the firewall and I will show you all. Again, I need to confirm on this option. This is a very critical option. If this is not done, you will not be able to get the captive portal page or access the internet. So here we need to make sure, okay, in the captive portal, here, edit, sorry, not in the captive portal, we need to make sure that in the DNS resolver, okay, we need to have this host override. This record should be there, okay. Every individual host for the resolver standard IP address should be overridden with a specific IP address. You should do this, okay. And also in our next video we will begin working in the captive portal with the voucher option. Okay, let's see. Here we will check the voucher option later in the next video. We will create a voucher and we will also enable, we know how to enable the HTTPS, okay, HTTPS login, okay, because we are working with the HTTP only. And here he is giving a small note here that you need to enable the HSP server on the guest network interface, which we have done already. And we have to put the record in the DNS resolver. We have done this also, okay. So now here we will, in our next video, we will try to enable HTTPS login and voucher option. And we said before we have done these two. We have enabled the HSP on the GN or GNW interface, DHCP, and we have our captive portal on the interface. Okay, so everything works perfectly. So until I see you all in the next lab, I like to thank you for viewing. Thank you so much. We will go off to the firewall, and then we will close the firewall itself. we can take a small backup from the firewall. Here you go. We will make a snapshot. Take a snapshot, backup before firewall update. Okay, and then take a snapshot. I am taking a snapshot only because I have seen when I have accessed the firewall that there is an update. So in my next video I will update the firewall and begin working with the captive portal voucher option and the HTTPS. So I'm just preparing or taking a snapshot. So you don't need you don't need to see, it's already done in a typical way. So until I see you all next video, thank you so much for viewing.